Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Wednesday Wisdom, Jay LaValle, Joe Wrestling, and I have another special guest this week. He is Zach Krapf. He is a mixed martial artist fighter and former wrestler from Northern Michigan Greco-Roman national team training. And, a couple things. Zach, first of all, how you doing tonight? I know you just got back from training and you're
probably tired, man, but I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing good. I haven't caught up with you in a long time. I know we chat a lot on Instagram, but I haven't seen you in probably over a year. Well over a year.
Yeah, well over a year, because it's been before COVID. You went full recluse mode for a minute, and I went out to Colorado for a little bit. I went out west, and you were just sitting in your basement training alone like a psychopath. So
basically, but you're training like a psychopath in Colorado. What was going on there? You had a fight. I know you had a fight. I watched that fight. That was
I had a Muay Thai fight out there.
That was crazy.
It was good. I don't know. It was a good experience for me. I think I feel comfortable with like wrestling, because I've wrestled a while, so like it was cool to like be out of my comfort zone. I'm starting to get comfortable with striking, so it was cool. It was a good experience. But honestly, I wish I would have competed when I was feeling a little bit better. I don't want to make excuses, but I had a bad like ulcerative colitis bout, so like I weighed in very underweight and stuff, but I didn't want to bitch out, and I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, man, worst thing that can happen is he could take some brain cells from me. It is what it is. Like I didn't really, it didn't bother me at the time, but looking back at it, like now, I don't want to compete ever again if I'm not like not 100%, but if I'm not feeling good, like at least to a degree. Like there are reasons to, I think, like decide that you're not going to compete, like not like maybe not day of or anything like that, but I knew that I was flaring up for a while, so it probably would have been like smarter for me to not do any type of fight camp or anything like that at the time, and just like just focusing on my health and like getting my health back. But it is what it is. I'm not gonna complain. It is what it is.
Yeah, fighting in of itself is a sport of discomfort, and then you go out there, you're sick, you didn't want to, and you went out there to train.
Man, I lost 30 pounds though. I lost 30 pounds of muscle, man. 30 pounds of muscle. Yeah, wow. I lost 30 pounds of muscle. I weighed in. That's the thing too, like trying to make weight while you're already like in a catabolic state. Like it took me forever to gain any weight back. Now I'm back up to like 178 pounds, 182 pounds, like before training. But the thing is now it's a lot of soft weight, when before I was very solid. I'd always been really solid. It took me a long time to build up to that, because the first time I had an ulcerative colitis flare up was 2017. I lost the same amount of weight pretty much from the same walking around weight. Like I was about 180 pounds, maybe a little bit less at the time. And I went all the way down to like 160 pounds about like walking. And then this time I went even lighter because I was training through it. Like, and I wasn't eating the same because I was trying to be in shape for the fight. I just was toughing through it. I was like to myself, man, this is going to suck regardless. And like, I don't have like when I was in Colorado too, I didn't really have like the means to take care of myself better. I didn't have like a lot of money and shit like out there, like a lot of resources. So if I would have, I think I could have managed it a lot better, not lost so much muscle. But yeah, it was bad. I was supposed to fight 153. When I got to Colorado, I weighed about 180 pounds, just, like that's what I weighed. And I was training there in the beginning.
When was
a lot of like pro fighters and stuff.
Was this right before COVID? Was this right before COVID or after COVID?
No, this was right after. This was not right after. This was like maybe COVID had been going on for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So when COVID went on, all the training that I was doing shut down over here. Like, I'm back with my old team again. I'm back with Team Lloyd Irvin, but
right.
Yeah, for a while things were like, I didn't know what was going to go on. Like I didn't know what was going to happen to my life. Like I didn't have because COVID, I didn't have the job that I had. Like everything was crazy. So I was just like, man, like this might be a time to just like try something else, because like I'm getting tired of being miserable out in the DMV. Like I'm tired of being either miserable in the city or in Virginia, just like in the suburbs. Like they're both crappy to me, and like I gotta find someone that's gonna be good to me. And I thought it would be Colorado, but then I was like, man, I'm running away from shit. I gotta go back to where I'm comfortable. Not even comfortable like in like a pussy like training sense, like, oh, I gotta go comfortable like to where I'm like the top dog. No, it's not like that at all. It was just like I gotta go to where I'm around people who understand me better, and to where I understand the people better and like the culture better and stuff, you know, because out west it's so different, you know. I like it, but I would like to visit, but I just also learned like it's just not quite for me. Like that type of society, you know, it's just not quite for me. I like it out there though. I met a lot of really good people. But it just and like there are a lot of really good wrestling out there. I will say, like, the thing that maybe the DMV lacks is wrestling a little bit. Just the East Coast has really good wrestling, but it's just like it's spread out, you know what I mean? And out there there's just less people, so the good wrestlers all kind of they just kind of group together.
Right.
So there was really good wrestling when I was out there, but also I didn't get to enjoy the wrestling as much as I could have, because a lot of my wrestling is based on like using power, at least to a point. And I couldn't use any of it because once I lost, like in the beginning, I felt great. And then once I started losing the weight, like every day I would just do a little bit worse in the gym, even if my cardio was getting better, because like I was getting used to the altitude. Every day I'm just doing a little bit better, like a little bit worse, like giving up more takedowns, feeling crappier, failing more takedowns, you know, like,
right.
Like it was MMA. So like losing positions on the cage, like on the cage is where I'm supposed to be good. Cause if you come from Greco-Roman, there's no excuse for you to not understand how to body lock somebody, how to clinch somebody, how to grab somebody on the cage, how to pull guys off the cage, how to get to their back on the cage, how to take their back, how to do all these different things. Like there's no excuse to not be able to win basically all those positions. And so, yeah, there was like in the beginning, I felt like I was doing great. And then after a while, it was just like, damn, I don't feel good. Like any type of wrestling. Like there got to a point where I was wrestling guys like on the outside just because I understand wrestling, so I could sometimes get like the MMA guys, you know, not the wrestling MMA guys, just the MMA guys.
Right.
But yeah, it wasn't until I started getting the weight back that I felt good with the wrestling at all. Like I got a lot more technical with the wrestling, I will say. It made me learn how to move better, because for a while I was very small and very weak. Like I was walking around about 150 pounds, which is the smallest. That's the smallest I've been like since high school.
How do you get the what is it called? Colitis?
Ulcerative colitis. It's like a basically like a stomach ulcer in my
holy crap
intestine that's like inflammation in a part of my intestines, basically. Like it's colitis, you know, like itis is inflammation, and like, you know, cold is the colon, so it's also like it's ulcerative.
Wow.
Ulcer cause like inflammation of a part of your intestines, and it's just really painful. And I lose, like at the beginning I like lose my appetite, and I don't know why, like I'm not hungry, and then it's just like horrible, like diarrhea, horrible, just like stomach pains. It was bad.
Wow. And so you're you're 180, getting ready for this fight, and then you get this thing that made you already lose weight. So you're trying to descend down in your own way, but this is forcing you to descend down in a different way. It's
yeah, that basically. But the thing is I was already flaring up when it happened, but I already like put my name in. Like part of the reason that honestly, part of the reason I didn't want to like stay in Colorado or just out west in general, like out west, everything in MMA moves really fast. That's not a bad thing for some people, but for me, I have very specific goals like that I have as a fighter, and I want to be good everywhere. And if that means that I have to take more time now to like not fight and just skill build, I'm okay with that. Like I'm happy that I'm back on the East Coast, because a lot of people don't know, but on the East Coast we're very into like the specific arts. Like we might have really good wrestlers. Like we don't have good wrestlers in MMA, to be honest. Like, well, we do, but it's just they're not really well known. We have a lot of like, there's a lot like at like the UFC and stuff though, you don't really hear guys from like this area being like wrestlers and stuff like that, even though they might have like that skill set. But the thing is like out there they focus so much on the transitions between like everything, like the mixed part of mixed martial arts, which is good, but that's like that's like that's a lot of wrestling, to be honest. Like the wrestling is what connects like the jiu-jitsu, the clinching, the striking, all that stuff together. So they're training a lot of wrestling out there. It's a very wrestling focused out here. We train wrestling, but it's almost like we train wrestling like a wrestling team would, you know, like a lot of like from the stance and stuff like that. Like a lot of or just like a lot of the just a lot of like this area in general, I've noticed like just a lot of the training is still very sports specific, which I think for me is good. Like I just had to figure out where was better for me, you know, and like there was a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I didn't have like out there, I didn't have like a support structure or anything like that. Out here, I had so many friends from, you know, the years that I lived here. And just like from all walks of life, you know, people I met working, people I met just walking around, people I met training, people I met, you know, at my gym, people I met, you know, coaches, every like even people like you know, like I have a lot of connections out in this area. So I just realized like life works better for me out here. You know, I can find work better, like I can do things better. Like I just understand how to move out here basically. And so I was like, man, I got to get my health back on track, and it's not going to get better out here because I got to work on making these connections. I got to work on hustling and all this other stuff. It's hard to do that and try to take care of your health and try to become a better fighter at the same time, you know, like something's going to have to take a back seat if you're trying to do all that. So when I came out here, it was like, none of it really had to take a back seat. I started gaining weight back immediately. I had a really good friend of mine too, who put me up in his house for like a couple months. Like I had a lot of people, like go to bat to me to get me to come back out because they knew that the circumstances in which I was even moved out to Colorado to begin with was kind of reluctant, almost like I didn't want to have to go, but bad things were happening like financially and stuff because of COVID. So it was cool that like when I expressed like interest, like when I was saying, man, hey, things are going hard for me out in Colorado, I had so many people that were willing to help me come back and like, you know, welcome me back with open arms, you know, like my old gym, everybody at the old gym, like I was kind of worried because, you know, I was still kind of a new guy there. I was worried that maybe when I came back, there was going to be like some type of resentment, like that I had left. Maybe they felt betrayed or something like that. But it was all like good. It was like, you know, the prodigal son returns. Like I feel like, you know, I felt really welcome to come back. And it's cool because someone like me, you know, who comes from Germany and grew up in Germany for a long time. And, you know, I was in Michigan for a year and I was down in Florida for a little bit. You know, I've only been in America like now, it's 2016. So 5 years now, you know, which isn't a long time.
That's not
yeah, it's not a long time. So it's cool that I have somewhere where I have a lot of friends, like where I have like connections and I have like a big community, you know. It normally takes a lifetime to build a community like that. So I'm very happy that I found that out here. And yeah, you know, and I another thing was I wanted to represent like the DMV and you know, and DC and Virginia where I lived, you know, specifically, and Maryland where my gym is. I wanted to represent those places and those people and the friends who, you know, when I was first in this area, didn't have nothing, you know, didn't have no, like people like you, didn't even have a place to start about where I was even going to start training, like what I was going to do to become an MMA fighter, nothing like that. Cause I just kind of left Florida in a spur of the moment thing, came up north. And when I came here, I was like, all right, what am I going to do? So it was like, you know, like people like you with Nova Wrestling Club, like just giving me a spot to train in and get back in shape, get strong as fuck, you know, go to the, am I allowed to cuss? Sorry.
That's it.
No, but get strong as hell. Like, you know, the people who worked at the gyms that gave me the jobs, like the first UFC gym that I went into, like all that stuff. I wanted to be in that area where I was around those people, you know, because I know that when the pro career is taking off and you have momentum, the thing is like, I don't want to rush the pro debut for MMA because when I fight again, I want to be able to, or when I fight a pro debut, I want to be able to build momentum. I want to go, bam, fight. All right, if I win that, or I will win that, and then it's okay, bam, next, then bam, next. Like you want to be able to build off of it. You want to be able to go a couple fights in a row without having to worry about like having to improve, like having to play catch up, you know?
Right.
And if you jump into the pros early, because you have one specific skill set, like let's say if I would have just like used wrestling, lay and pray on a bunch of guys, then you can get a big record pretty early. And but then like you're playing catch up then like at a high part of your career when they're expecting you to perform at a certain level, maybe you can't perform at that level. Maybe you can't beat the guys who can stop your wrestling, you know?
Right.
Maybe you're a great boxer, you can't beat the guys though who can wrestle you. You can't beat the guys who do something, you know what I mean? Because MMA is I'm learning now, it's such a wide sport with so many different things. Like, you know, wrestling already is a huge thing, like it's a huge thing, you know, with hundreds of moves, thousands of variations of those moves, you know, thousands of like concepts that go into it.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I mean, if you think into all the striking you add to that, and all the submissions you add to that, and the cage wrestling, and how different areas, like, because there's no out of balance, so different places, there's different types of moves that you want to do to control where you are in the cage, like, or in a ring, or wherever it is you're fighting in. Like, it's very it's just a lot to think about,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that support system you're talking about, I think that you hit the nail on the head. Having a support system, because as you're also talking about moving up in the ranks, you win this fight, you move up, you win, and you gain that momentum.
Yeah.
Those people that are around you, that support system, they're going to be with you and keep building you up and keep giving you confidence, and you're going to gain confidence being around them.
Exactly.
Same.
And you got to be around people who make you feel that way, and
exactly.
People who really understand you. And like, that's the thing, like, out here when I'm in the gym, I'm surrounded by really good people who I look up to as athletes, and like I look up to like in the mental aspect. And then when I'm outside of the gym, I have so many friends that are helping me hit all types of goals, like like mental toughness goals, financial goals, like anything, like there are just a lot of people around me here that motivate me, because they understand me and they understand the person I am, and my trainer out here, my trainer out here, I have a good relationship with him. I think he really believes in me. And when you have somebody who believes in you, and like you believed in me too, like, so when I have people like that who believe in me really, and I know that they believe in me, I know that and I know that they understand the type of person I am, which is the important thing.
Right.
Like, then it's like, then how can you not be confident, at least to some degree, So it takes a huge part of the mental battle away from me being in this area, because I don't have to convince myself of something like that. I'm already, it's convincing me all the time. Just, it's in the air here. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when I'm somewhere that I don't feel as comfortable, you got to do things to make yourself mentally tougher. You know what I mean? You got to wake up like, sometimes you wake up in the morning, you don't want to do that. Well, now it's like, I don't wake up in the morning, it's not like I'm waking up and like not wanting to do shit, or it's like not like I'm I don't know, like, it's not like I'm like
it's a different energy here.
Yeah, it's energy, it's energy that's keeping me motivated. Yeah, keeping me motivated.
I definitely feel that more. I've lived in Boston, lived in Baltimore, lived in DC, and you feel it in like these cities, but when you start to get away from the city, it's, I don't know, to me it's a little bit, you feel less of that type of energy, because you don't have the same type of people around you.
Yeah.
And
no, definitely. And it's like it's this, I'm very ADHD, so slow life isn't for me either. And when I'm not around a lot of people, like, I have like introverted moments, but I'm kind of like an extrovert person. I like being around people. And so if I don't have like a lot of energy with a lot of people to feed off of, like, if I'm not like around a lot of people who, I can get good energy from, then I don't know, I'm not at my best. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Like, yeah.
You're talking about your trainer. Are you talking about Lloyd?
Yeah, I am. Josh, Josh talks about him a lot.
Yeah. So what?
And he was,
maybe talk about Lloyd, and talk about the gym, talk about where it is, and what you're doing there. What draws you there? Because I know there's a lot. I mean, around here in the DMV, there's a lot of mixed martial art type of gyms, and you've told me very specifically though about Lloyd and what he brings to the table to you.
Yeah.
And just in general to MMA. Talk a little bit about how what that means to you.
Well, like, so you know me from wrestling, so a lot of all right, so like a lot of wrestling, like the way that we train is like, it's tough and it's hardcore. It's a lot of like, it's almost like a weed out system of training. Like when you go to like a high school gym for wrestling, that team is not for everyone. And some people like that, some people don't like that. You know what I mean? Some people are going to be against that style of training, style of coaching, because some people are going to be like, oh, well, you're losing like a percentage of people who might be interested in wrestling, because, you're almost like bullying them out of the system. Right. And I I have mixed feelings on it personally, because I think that things like wrestling and combat sports should be for everyone. But at the same time, when it comes to being competitive, like, so for my wrestling coach was David Bichinashvili. You can look him up. He wrestled Adam Saitiev. He wrestled Buvaisar Saitiev. He wrestled all the greats forever. You know, this guy was chasing world medals for over a decade, actually. He competed in the Olympics. His last Olympic run was, I think, 2012, I think, where he was one of the oldest, like, freestyle wrestlers, like, in the bracket, you know? And
yeah, he had to be if he was competing against the Saitiev brothers. And
yeah, he was competing. Well, so yeah, he was world class from the late 90s, from the mid to late 90s, all the way to 2012, where he qualified the last time he qualified for the Olympics. And he was raw, you know. I think he won a couple German championships after. Don't quote me on that, but I think he still was like winning German championships and stayed on the world team, or, like, you know, it's their national team for a couple of years after, because he started competing for there's a little bit of wrestler lore for everybody, because this guy is, like, kind of like, he's someone who was on the world stage for a while, but I don't know if he'd be, like, super well known, like, but he started competing he competed, like, early in his life for Georgia, and then most of his like, competitions in the, like, late 90s and stuff, when he was, like, probably at his best, or, like, when he was competing, like, against, like, the Saitiev brothers and stuff like that, it was all for Ukraine. And then in, like, sometime in 2000 something, he was in Germany for, like, his last, like, maybe 10 years. Wow. So he competed. Yeah, he made national teams for 3 different countries, though, you know, like, that dude's raw.
Crazy.
Yeah, and, you know, he could wrestle everything. He could do freestyle with everybody in the whole room. He could do Greco with everybody in the whole room, like, even the good Greco guys, like the real good Greco guys that were, you know, placing at worlds and everything like that. He could go with them. So wow. He was an absolute beast, absolute nice guy, absolute great role model for, in my opinion, what it means to be a good and tough wrestler, but also, like, a good-hearted wrestler, a good coach. He was a good coach in different ways too. He knew how to be hard on some people, and he knew how to build other people's confidence. Like, he did, you know, he knew what it meant to be a coach. And you know, a lot of the guys who he was training had a language barrier with. Like, a lot of guys, like, they didn't speak German or Russian or Ukrainian or one of the 15 languages he spoke. And but he would still find ways to, like, reach them and stuff. Because, you know, when I was there, there was a lot of, like, refugees that were coming to Germany. And there were always, like, new immigrants that were coming that, like, wrestled in their old country. So they were always coming to the gym. And a lot of times they couldn't talk with him. And he would still, like, train them and, like, knew how to make everybody better. And so I grew up with a really good program, and like, a world-class program. So when I was training, you know, in other MMA gyms, it's a lot of and, you know, some of them have good, maybe even produce some good athletes every once in a while, but it's like, it's a lot of like, training for everyone, not training for the competitor, you know, not training at a world-class level, like what I learned at what they taught me, you know what I mean? Like, how they taught me that the work ethic should be, how they taught me, you know, things about, like, respect for the place, you know, like, you gotta you know, clean the mats up, treat where you train like it's a second home, you know. You hang out at the gym, you know, the people at the gym are your friends. You hang out with your teammates after training, before training. It's like this type of culture, you know, but it's not like a fake, like, big fish little pond culture where everyone's, like, just stroking everyone else's ego, like, making everyone else feel good. It was like, nah, you know that you can be cool with each other because you all really put in the work together, you know. Like, in wrestling, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of drilling the same move over and over again to get better at it. It's a lot of working the same position, trying to feel out the intricacies of the position. It's a lot of these types of things that I, like, learned. This is the right training method to learn this body mechanic. This is the right training method to learn this mechanic, this theory, this move, whatever. And there wasn't a lot of MMA gyms that copied that type of blueprint, like that elite, like, grappling blueprint. Even jiu-jitsu gyms, you know, like, a lot of them, they don't train like that. You go in and the instructor teaches a move, and then you drill that move, and then you do rolling. Like, that was it, like, for most of the places. And it's a lot of guys who, they come to train 2 times a week. They train for 2 hours 2 times a week. They train 4 hours a week, and they maybe do an open mat on the weekends where they just roll with guys from other gyms. And they think that, you know, they're getting a real, you know, they're getting a real like fighter experience, but that's not, you know, because I came from wrestling, I understood that's not the real, you know,
right.
that's not real athlete training, right? And so when I went to Team Lloyd Irvin, like one of the first conversations he had with me was like, he's like, you know, because I was wrestling with some of the people there, and I showed that I knew how to wrestle, like I showed that I had some skills, and I went hard because I'm lucky that one of my coaches before, he was actually like Lloyd's first fighter, this dude named Jeff Ruth, who is like kind of like a local like legend, like, and he's a good, really nice guy, really cool trainer around here, like striking trainer mostly now because he can't do grappling because he has like a lot of injuries. He's a very, you know, he gave his body to fighting, like he gave everything to fighting. And he was telling me, he's like, you know, you show up to Lloyd, like that's my old coach. You show up there, like you got to be. He told me not to, like it's not that he told me not to go, but when he told me to go, it's because he knew that I was mentally tough enough that even if I wasn't skilled, like the guys there, I was not gonna cur out. I wasn't gonna bitch out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like as a fighter, you got like one job. Your job is like, at the end of the day, like, you know, win, lose, whatever. I think the main job of being like an athlete in general is not be a pussy. You know, like when you're in the gym, don't complain. Like just keep going. You got to go hard. You know, and of course take care of yourself, but you gotta. It's serious training. It's serious work. And so, yeah, you know, it was cool. One of the first conversations he had with me is like, you know, if you were training at an elite level, you came to America for the Olympic training site in, you know, Marquette, Michigan. Like, how can you go from that type of training to just like regular, like, you know, weekend warrior training? And you can't, you know, it doesn't work. It wasn't the right environment for me. It was either like I didn't feel like I was in the right place for one reason, or I didn't feel like I was in the right place for another. So when I went there, it was cool because I saw the way they trained jiu-jitsu. It was the same way I used to train wrestling. Like you learn a concept from the coach and you drill it. And then the coach tells you to drill another type of concept and you drill it. And then a lot of live situational goes, like from a certain position that you got to get better at, like that type of stuff, you know, like hard drilling, like drilling at like at a like you know, competition pace, at a fight pace,
Sure.
That type of stuff, you know, that's like real wrestling training. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is cool, because there's nowhere else that I see that trains jiu-jitsu the same way wrestlers train it, the same way. I guess like that's when I learned like all grappling is kind of just grappling, like they all, regardless how, like, you know, Garrett Limburger's there, like multiple time NCAA D2 champ, yeah. And you know, Josh Lopez used to go there too. I think like he would be there every once in a while to like help the guys out with their wrestling. So I mean, yeah, you could ask Josh too. Like Josh was always trying to tell me to go there before when I was just wrestling with you, and I was just like thinking like, oh, I don't know, because I was just kind of like I don't know if it was the inner bitching and stuff, but I just felt like I didn't want to go to Maryland, like all the way to Maryland at the time, because I thought it was a lot farther than it was, but it wasn't. And once I went there, I was beating myself up. I'm like, man, I should have been in here from the start. You know what I mean? And because it was a super good it was just a good fit for me. I liked the way that you know, Master Lloyd like talked to me. Like I like the way that he understood like the skill set and what I bring. Like I do bring something. Like I have a deep knowledge of like certain positions because of my Greco-Roman background. Sure. So he liked that about me, and I liked the way that everything was trained there. I liked that it was super hardcore. Like I was hearing stories all the time about how it was like the craziest, hardest working gym in the world and all these other things. And when I went there, I was like, oh, I understand that now. Like, that's cool. And it's like, it gives you a sense of pride, like being from there, because, you know, you always know that people are going to hate on you now because of how hard you train. Like they want to try to like one up you, like in this area if you're from there. And it's like, cool. It's like, I don't know. It's like a members only type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, you walk into a room, you know exactly what you're going to get yourself into. If it is like that weekend warrior type of thing, which is fine. You know, I think it does work for
it's fine for people. It's fine for people who want to learn martial arts. Right. They want to learn jiu-jitsu. They want to do these things. Like, I mean, every gym offers those classes. And then it's like, okay, then what do you offer to the serious competitors? And I liked what some gyms offered to the serious competitors still, but it was just different. It's about where you feel comfortable. Yep. The thing is there's a lot of good fighters who you know, like people tell them to change their coaches and stuff like that, but it's like that's where they feel comfortable. Sometimes it is like a little bit of the case of like, you know, being scared to leave the nest or whatever for some people. But I think for a lot of people, it's just if you have like that cohesion with somebody, you have a good relationship with the trainer. Why would you risk trying to rebuild that? Like when sometimes like you're just not going to click with someone the way you click with someone else. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, like I think it's so important to have like that type of cohesion with your team and your training environment. Like that goes for your trainers, the type of training you do, and like just like and the style of coaching and the style of training. But also the thing about Team Lloyd Irvin too is they focus, you know, there we focus a lot on the specific individual arts, like focus a lot on boxing, focus a lot on you know, jiu-jitsu. Like everything can work as individually too. And a lot of other MMA gyms, they don't train like that. They're actually against that philosophy. And you know, there's a lot of gyms that produce great people without like that philosophy of getting good everywhere. But at the same time, like for the type of fighter I want to be, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to do really high level jiu-jitsu at one point. And if I want to do that, there's nowhere else in the area, and there's no one else that I know personally that has done more of that than, you know, Master Lloyd Irvin. Like when it comes to like producing high level jiu-jitsu people, like he's like the best in the area. And like, if not the best in the world. So it was just like something that I wanted to, it was just like a good fit for my goals and for my mentality. And it was just good all around. And, you know, it's somewhere where I feel at home. And I also feel like it makes me tougher every day. And I feel like it makes me better every day in the ways that I want to get better, you know?
That's awesome, man. I'm glad you got hooked up over there. Where is he? He's in Maryland, right? Like Maryland, we got DC in the middle, and then you got Maryland over to the north and to the east, and then you got
it's like to the east. West. You get on 495 and you just go towards like you go past National Harbor, and it's right in Camp Springs on Old Greenwich Avenue. Yeah, it's not that bad. When I got off like when I was living in DC for a little bit with my friend in Trinidad, like in Northeast, and it was like honestly further from there than it is from Virginia, because you got to get on like Branch Avenue and like Southeast, and you take it all the way there basically. But the speed limit on Branch Avenue is like 30 miles an hour the whole way, or 25 or something, with a bunch of speed cameras. Yeah, so it takes forever to get there. And then when I come from Virginia, where it's like double the actual distance, it takes me like 15-20 minutes at the most.
You go over the bridge, right?
Yeah, I just go right over the bridge, and it's like I'm basically there. Nice. It's not far at all. Yeah, it's funny because when I'm like actually close in like DC, like closer to Maryland, it took so much longer.
That's funny.
Yeah,
well, that's cool. I'm glad you found a spot, and you know, I'm sure there's going to be big things coming out of there. You got Garrett there now. You're back in the area, and so that's huge, I think, for him and for you guys. So.
I'm having a good time training. You know, it's a lot of sacrifice, but when you're doing something that you love, like it shouldn't be a sacrifice, because it should be what you want to do, and it is what I want to do. So I have a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun training jiu-jitsu, so it's cool.
Nice. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. You know, for anybody that's joining in now, because I got a couple of feeds going on. I have Zach Krapf on. Zach's an MMA fighter. He was a wrestler at Northern Michigan Greco-Roman Training Center.
Man, if I would have known that there was still U23s this year, I would have went. I would have competed. It was my last year to compete.
No, you're still U23?
I could have been this year.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I think that they already had it.
Yeah, they already had it.
Yeah, they already had it.
I didn't know though. Like I had no idea. I don't follow like any wrestling people really anymore. I don't really know, so I didn't like hear about it. I'm not like seeing wrestling people like in their face anymore. So I didn't like,
right?
Because you know, no wrestling club been shut down. Like I haven't been in there for a minute, so I didn't know that anything was going on. Like I had no idea, right. And I haven't really talked to a lot of my friends. So I just recently started reconnecting with some of my friends from Northern Michigan, like a lot of Greco guys, a lot of skilled dudes. I've been talking to a lot of them, and it's been cool reconnecting, but it just sucks that I miss U23 because
you're the top of the age group.
Huh?
You're top of the age group. And you placed there before, right?
Yeah, no, and I didn't even train or nothing. I just showed up and I placed, and I almost teched the dude for in third, who took third. He's good though, but I just was so gassed, man. It
Who
was
was
so
that?
bad because I didn't know how much I weighed either. I literally showed up there. I didn't know how much I weighed. I was training, but like I didn't have like a scale where I was training, so I was just trying to figure it out as I went. And I didn't have like a scale on the road trip. So when I got there, I stepped on the scale like at the hotel I was staying at, and it was like night before, and I'm like 82 kilos, and I gotta be 77 like same day weigh in. And I was just like, oh fuck. And then, or I wasn't 82. I was maybe like 81 or something. Like it was all water. Like I was bloated, and I was eating a lot of like salty stuff
It's
because
still
I
like
had
10 pounds, almost 10 pounds.
yeah, but it wasn't that hard to get off. But it was just like annoying doing all that. And it was bad too. Like I should have just competed at like I don't know what the weight class up is, because I feel like I looked at it and I was like, damn, this bracket was so much easier because I had Porter first round when I went to U23s.
Oh,
so
man.
yeah, so it stuck because then I had to wrestle all the way back. And
Were you training there at Michigan at that time?
no, I'd already been gone from Northern I was only at Northern for a year.
Okay.
Because I had like a lot of shit. Yeah, I had a lot of like shit going on, and it was just like not a good time for me to be training. I needed to take some time off, so I took some time off and was in Florida for like a couple months, and then I came up here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but when I was training at just the Gunston Wrestling Club with like Roy Hill, and I was trying to get in the room with Saheed because I knew Saheed knew how to do some Greco, you know.
Yeah.
And he wasn't but he never came in the room at that time because he was focused on his real estate stuff. Like he was hitting a lot of money goals, so good for him, you know. He was
right,
you know, trying to
he still is. That dude is a hustler.
No, I know he is, but he's also now he's also training again. And like at the time he was like not training at all. Like I was texting him all the time. I hadn't met him in person yet. I was bugging him. I was like, yo, I was bugging everybody though, you know, and to try to get training.
Yeah, to try to get training.
I mean, I got it at Gunston. You know, there was a lot of like bodies for me to use, but not a lot of Greco people, but it was still something. And so it's not like I showed up and I wasn't like in any type of shape. Like I had been wrestling, but it had just not been the type of wrestling I wish I could have done for a serious, you know, tournament. Right. But yeah, I had some good highlights from there. I mean, I threw a couple people. It was cool. It was a good time. It was fun. You know, I showed up in like fine shape as far as like power went, as far as strength went, as far as my technical skills went. I wish I would have done a little bit more parterre. You can never do too much parterre like when you're competing, especially like the way the rules are now. Like, yeah, you should finish the match when you get on top of somebody. That's how it should be. You know, if the guy want to back up, then that's good. Like you're gonna finish them when you get on top. So, but yeah, it was cool though. Like I had a lot of fun competing. Like I love wrestling. Like I love competing in wrestling. I love the energy when you're in a wrestling tournament. I love like being around a bunch of dudes who, you know, they're studs, but they gotta know that you're a stud too. Like when you really are in the mix and like you're actually winning shit, like it's a good feeling, you know. I miss it, you know. But I know that I'm onto a different stage now at this point. You know, I like fighting.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just like, but I know I do love wrestling. Like I loved everything about it. I loved every competition I was in, even the ones I got my ass kicked, and the ones that I, you know, won. I loved every single match. I loved every second of the journey. Wrestling is different than fighting because I think for a lot of us, a lot of people hold wrestling really near and dear because, you know, you just remember those first memories of you being exposed to just, you know, the art of wrestling, and like when you're a kid and you fall in love with it. And a lot of people over time, they fall out of love with it. Like kind of how I did, like at Northern, at Michigan, like I kind of fell out of love with it because I had some other stuff going on. And because of it, like, but I mean, at the same time, like I lost the love for it temporarily, but the love for wrestling never really went away. Like I still always like was thinking about wrestling, still was watching wrestling, still loved wrestling. And when I came back and competed in All-American at U23s, it was nice because it was like showing people, like, even though I had a lot bad last year, I did horrible in every competition because I was super depressed and everything like that. I ain't gonna make no excuses because I'm still back, I'm still tough, and I can still throw you. You know what I mean? Yeah, so it was cool. Like it was cool. It was a nice little. I wish I would have. I wish I would have. I wish I would have won. I think that I think in wrestling, you can always win. Like you gotta have the right. If you have the right mindset, the right game plan, you can always win. But I wish I would have won. But at the same time, it was cool to show up and show that I'm still around, that I'm still throwing people. I still got a nice back arch, so it was cool.
Exactly, man. And I told you this story before. I think it was around the time you probably had come up to Virginia, DC from Florida, and you reached out to me, like randomly reached out to me on Twitter.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, let's train. You're like, hey, let's train. I'm like, no, man, I'm old. I think I'm done with wrestling. Like I was ready to walk away from wrestling, just like almost like you just said. You said you fell out of love with it, but not really. You just weren't maybe motivated. I was like not motivated in wrestling anymore at that point in my life because a lot of stuff was going on in my life too. Like the politics of wrestling, unfortunately, they're real and people are crazy. And I was experiencing that at that time. And I was like, I don't want any part of this anymore. But
you know what? Yeah, I've actually heard a lot of, like, that's crazy you mentioned that, because since at the time I didn't know any of the politics stuff. But then when I started like going around and like name dropping you, a lot of people had a lot of like bad stuff to say. And it just kind of made me realize how it just reminded me what wrestling was. There's always been this toxic community around wrestling. And that's just how it's always going to be. But at the end of the day, a lot of those people who are toxic as fuck, they suck. Like they're horrible at wrestling. They can't win shit. They never won shit. And they're pushing their kids to do it. And their kids don't win shit either. Like that's the reality of it. A lot of them suck. Their kids suck and they're never going to be good because they don't have the right. They think that they're tough by ganging up on people, by bullying people, by saying bad stuff about other people. They're not tough. If they were tough, they would maybe win some matches. You know what I mean? It's always these dads. And I swear, no, it was always dads and stuff too. When I was a kid, there was all these like when I would do competitions with like American school and stuff like that. I mostly did like German competitions, but I did for my high school I wrestled too. Like I went to an American high school for high school, and just like these army dads, like with their kids, and they're like super overbearing and stuff. Like I had dads try to fight me and stuff like that. And I always tell them, I said, you want to go outside, old man, you old fuck? Like I'll kill you, you stupid idiot. I'll throw you on your head. I'll spike you on your head on the concrete. Like it's not like, and at the time you have to understand, like I'm the size of a grown man. I'm the size I was now. So it's like these dudes are the same size as me, getting up in my face, trying to like intimidate me because I'm a 17-year-old or 18-year-old. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, didn't you just see me ragdoll your kid? I'm gonna ragdoll you too. Like, but this is crazy though. Like,
was this in the United States?
Huh?
This was in the United States.
That was it was American kids in the United States when I would wrestle for like it's called like it's called like I forget the name of it.
But yeah, this was in America. This was happening.
No, this was in Germany, but like with American kids, American parents.
Gotcha.
But Germans don't really get mad about competition. Like parents won't do that. They're more I guess dignified would be the word. Like they have some shame. But like, American parents don't. Like they really don't. Like they'll go crazy, they'll do anything. Like they don't have any filter or anything like that. But yeah, like in Germany though, like because there was like some like Chechen guys and there was some like Turkish guys, like dudes from different countries. So sometimes things get really heated, like in the tournaments there, and you just see fights, or you see fights at like the duels and stuff. That type of stuff happens, but it wasn't like with parents like being like trying to fight you because you beat their kid up.
That's
or whatever.
Toxic stuff. Like people.
Yeah, the
fighting is different because you're fighting for something you believe in. You're fighting. And then you shake hands. There's a gentleman's sportsmanship type of thing.
No, I mean, even if like sometimes it'll be like after the match, they feel like they get robbed and they'll like elbow him or something.
Yeah.
But even that, you know what? Like I can respect that because they care so much about the match. Like they can't accept defeat. Like literally as like as a human, like it pains them to do that. Right. Like they can't do it, And that's at least kind of funny to a degree. It's not funny when there's this culture of just like overbearing parents and like their like toxic attitudes and and then there are kids who think that they're like, I don't know, like a eugenics experiment or something like that they've created to be good at wrestling and they can't even win shit. Like, it's just, I don't know. I could go on about that for days though. I could go on about those type of people for days because I still run into them, you know, and there's a lot of good, there's a lot of really good parents in wrestling, like who really are just encouraging and they want to give their kids every opportunity. But I mean, for every parent like that, there's a lot of crazy messed up ones. So it is what it is.
Exactly.
But yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff like I said about you, and I was always just like, come on now, like that's so crazy that people think this shit, like that people care about, like there's this like political like movement in wrestling.
It is. It's crazy, and you know, I had to deal with that. And at that time, when you reached out to me, you like reignited like this motivation, and I wanted to coach. Like I almost was like, I'm not coaching anymore. I'm not doing anything regarding wrestling anymore. And then when you reached out, I'm like, I don't know, something reignited in me. I got back into it. So
no, that's good, dude. I'm so happy because it's cool because that's kind of like it was just an interesting time I think for everyone, and a lot of cool shit came from that, you know, like No Wrestling Club became what it is. There was a lot of cool stuff. I met cool people, like I met I mean, I guess like Josh and like a lot of other cool people that I was training with. So it was cool times, you know. That's all funny that's how it started though, because I just saw you. Well, the thing is like, look, everything that I've gotten in my life I've gotten because I haven't been scared to just ask people for things and hope that if they can't do something for me, they'll at least be nice enough. I'll make them like me to the point where they'll at least be nice enough to point me in the right direction for where I can get what I need, right?
That's
so I was like, man. This dude's a wrestling dude from around here. He's a wrestling coach from around here. He probably knows some people that I can wrestle with and, you know, just get back into shape and like do all that. And yeah, then we started training at No Wrestling Club, which was a super cool spot. You know,
it started with you. It literally started. I know. You, Nick, and then you had your buddy. What was his name?
Harry.
Dude, you had Harry there, and then it blew up. I mean, that place started getting.
All right, but before we have to put some respect on it. We have to put some respect on Harry Walker's name. That dude was like at one point like the #2 flow recruit or something like that for heavyweight. That dude was the beast.
Wow,
it was funny.
I could tell.
Huh? Yeah, he was a beast. It's so he just had, you know, a lot of injuries. Like being a big guy in wrestling, it's abuse, you know.
Yeah.
And he it was so funny because he posted on because he would always joke and make a lot of self-deprecating humor. And there was like one where he was like, we got two All-Americans in the room. It was me and Nick, and he's like, and neither of them could take down a fat gamer junkie. That's what he said. Neither of them took down the fat gamer junkie. Yeah, bro. Funny as hell.
Wow. Yeah, and then it blew up. And you were just getting into fighting at that point, right? Or it just started?
Yeah, I had like one fight, and then like I basically didn't train for it. I was just like brawling in it. And then I showed up to you and did like another fight, like basically with you as my training, just wrestling. Yeah, and I didn't even use any offensive wrestling. I had one takedown that fight. He tried like 5 takedowns on me. I just used defensive wrestling. I kicked him in the legs and won the fight like that. It's actually hilarious. Dude, fighting is such a funny sport, bro. Actually, all sports are funny.
That's
man.
Crazy.
I have so many funny wrestling stories too. Like, oh man, there was one time, I don't know, they might get mad at me for saying this. There was one time where when I first met like everybody from American like Greco, like it was like Tracy Hancock and like Jamal Dearman, who ended up becoming my very good friend Jamal. Like they went to they're at the Austrian Open, so I was kind of like their translator for like food and stuff like that. And I remember like Jamal was like winning a match like 6-0 or something, like about to tech this dude, and the dude like caught him in a headlock and pinned him and won. And when he walked off the mat, this is when I knew like American wrestling was just funny and in a way toxic, but also like I kind of liked it at the time, because then when he came off the mat, like instantly everybody just clowns him, and like Tracy's like one of the dudes who clowns him. And at the time, like everyone's improved so much since then. Everyone who's still wrestling, they're a completely different wrestler. Like, you know, when I met like Jesse Porter is like, you know, night and day, you know, Tracy's night and day now. Everyone got so much better. They're monsters now, you know, and I respect them because they stuck with it and they kept getting better, you know. And Yeah, like I remember then the same thing happened to Tracy. Like he was like beating this dude like 4-0 or something. And then he went to throw him and then got headlocked too. It got pinned in the headlock. And when he came off, Jamal was like, hey, buddy, remember when you made fun of me for getting pinned in the headlock after winning the match? It was just funny stuff like that. Like it just like the timing was just so perfect. Like just that it all happened the same day.
Oh,
And I can't say shit because I went 2-0 that tournament. I pinned myself. I tried to like lift this dude hit a headlock on me, missed it, and the ref didn't call it slip. Like basically gave me a free go on top and parterre. I tried to side lift him and I pinned myself. I threw him and he floated it, landed like in like a 69 position and just like held me in like north south and pinned me. And I was like, wow. And that dude is a beast though. That dude's Morten Thorsen from Norway. Yeah, I was like on top. I like side lifted him right onto myself. It was bad. I should have done it out of bounds too. Like I remember my coach telling me to walk him to the edge and then throw, but I didn't. I just picked it and I thought I was gonna drop him again because he was like squirming a lot, like really kicking well, and he's like a board, It's like that awkward, like just really good like hip parterre hips, like knows how to keep their hips to the mat. Yep. And so I just tried to send it, but I didn't even try to do like a Polish finish or anything like that either. My parterre game at the time was a lot worse than it is now, so I should have, there's a couple of things I could have done differently, but it is what it is. It's funny because looking back at wrestling, I'm going to always have more regrets than I have good memories because I stopped wrestling and I loved wrestling so much. I dedicated so much to it. But, and then the way that I went out is not the way that I would have wanted to go out of like NMU, just like kind of a depressed wreck. But I'm happy that I came back and did like U23s after that. I just wish that I would have had the chance to go this year because I feel like I could have won, man. Like, I feel like the bracket, like, I'm not trying to talk bad on anybody, but I feel like the bracket when I was there and the brackets for like US Open and stuff were so tough. And maybe just because I don't know the new names, which is like fine because I haven't kept up with wrestling, but I just feel like I could have done really, really good. Like, I feel like I could have been like a dark horse. And yeah, I didn't even know what was going on though. So that's my fault for being a dunce and not, I
don't think anybody knew. I mean, the schedule, I don't think anybody knew what was going on because the scheduling all changed because of COVID, and they moved the.
I mean, they moved the whole Olympics, so I mean,
they moved everything. Yeah, they moved the Olympics. Yeah. They moved the nationals, U.S. nationals. They moved that. They were supposed to be in like August. They moved it up to April or something, or May.
The thing is too is like, I don't know. I feel like my moveset and just like my genetics, I have like a good enough. I don't know. I think like even I don't know. I think it could have been cool, but yeah, it's whatever. I guess yeah, I guess it wasn't meant to be. Fighting is doing good.
You can always try and go back. I mean, you're training full tilt, and you're always going to have like that endurance that you need for wrestling.
Yeah, the thing is, it's crazy is I've noticed like even when I'm out of shape now, like I'll get smashed jiu-jitsu, smashed striking, smashed MMA, but I always have like gas for some reason to keep wrestling. It's like a different type of endurance that like my muscles have just developed from just doing it so long. I think like wrestling endurance, like it's people are always talking like wrestling endurance is the hardest endurance. Maybe, but at the same time, once you have it, I think it's kind of like riding a bike. It doesn't really go away. Whereas the other stuff for me, or just because I've done it so many years, the muscle memory is like on a different level now.
Yeah.
It's not like jiu-jitsu where, only done it, I guess, couple years and haven't really, haven't really, haven't really developed like those muscles that will just never fail on me for it. You know what I mean? Because like for me, like in a body lock and stuff, people can break your posture. They can beat you in it, but it's not like you're ever feeling like, oh, I'm so exhausted, I can't move in a wrestling match. Like I never get to that point anymore, But like in fighting, I still get to like that exhaustion point. Like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm fatigued, because it's just I haven't built the muscle memory up to that level yet.
Right, and you got the mindset. That mindset of wrestling is, different. I think.
I mean, people say that, but if you go to Team Lloyd and they have the same mindset about jiu-jitsu, they got the same mindset about striking. Like there's no bitch assery allowed, and that's huge. I think that
no excuse.
Yeah, no, but just no like B word in you, like no. Exactly. No, you're not allowed to be like that. You say you want to be a competitor. Let's see if you really want to be a competitor.
Or you're gonna get smashed, and you get back up and you go right back in.
Exactly. For some reason, I remember, like for some reason for some reason I keep putting my gear back on, I keep showing up. And every time I do, I'm putting my mouth guard and I'm like, oh man, here we go again. I'm like, oh man.
That's an interesting sport. I never really considered fighting, but that has got to be, especially the volume you have to train at if you're training all different disciplines, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai. I mean, that's a lot of training. And like you said, you get knocked down, here we go again, put the mouthpiece back in, here we go again.
It's just like it's just like the days, you wake up the next day and you're like, man, I'm dead. And you're like, man, I got to go back. I got to put the mouthpiece back in and go again. And it's like, no, but I got to keep doing it because I know, I've decided that this is the path I want to take. I want to pursue the path of a fighter. Being a fighter is a grind. The thing I like about Master Lloyd is he really believes, like, the stuff he preaches to, like, he really believes when he tells you stuff about like a mindset, mentality, he really believes that, because he chased a jiu-jitsu world championship for years. Like, he chased it and he worked so hard, and he really believes, like, if your mind is right, it can overcome anything, like, he's not I don't know, like, that's the thing, like, it's just different when you understand that your coach has been through it and like chased that himself,
Exactly.
That's what it was cool about. Like, that's why, like, wrestling for me, with David as my coach, like, as a teenager, just like learning how to wrestle, learning the theory of wrestling and learning the mentality of wrestling. It just, there was just no excuse with him. He didn't really talk so much about it, but he was just kind of like, just led by example. Like, there was no excuse with him. Like, you didn't, if you were winning all your matches, like, why are you not at every practice? You know what I mean? Like, it was stuff like that.
Right.
It wasn't even like as harsh, but it was just like, it's just like, why are you doing things wrong? Is it because you're stupid and you don't know? Well, then it can be forgiven. Or is it because you're not training right? You don't care. Like, it's one or the other, and you got to find out, and you got to be honest with yourself. Sometimes you don't care. Sometimes you are bitching out, and it's like, are you going to keep bitching out? Or are you going to make the conscious effort and decision to not be a baby anymore about certain things, Right. And it's a lot of stuff that I even learned, and I wish I would have learned harder. I wish I would have drilled it in almost deeper, because, there's always like some, like things like self-doubt and stuff like that. So, yep. It's good when you have like someone like David who taught me early on, like, almost like how to overcome that just by leading by example, because, he faced a lot of losses and difficulties in his career too. It was sad watching him. Like, I remember I went back one day and I watched like a lot of his old matches, and to a lot of these like super high level dudes like the Saitiev brothers, Revaz Mendrashvili from Georgia. Under the new rule set, he would have beat Revaz Mendrashvili. He fought him. But they, at the time it was 3, so they gave him 3, and then he got 2 and 2 again. So he got like 7 points in one round, and then he only won 1 round, and then he lost the other rounds like 2-1, 2-1.
Oh man.
Yeah, crazy. Like that. It's just like stuff like that. There was so much, like, just watching his career. Like, and this is my old coach, so I'm like gonna speak respectfully about him, but watching his career, there's so much, like, you just see so much like heartbreak in someone who give everything to the sport, move countries for the sport, and the sport to him is what was able to, like, give his family a good life. Like, he was a professional at it. Like, that was it. That was his bread. That was his everything. And so it was just, just seeing all the stuff that he'd been through as a wrestler at the highest level and competing against the best guys. It's not fun, it's a lot of times it's painful. Emotionally painful, physically painful, all the injuries you go through, all the scars that you have at the end of a wrestling career, at the end of a fighting career, at the end of a jiu-jitsu career. Your fingers are all beat up and broken 100 times. Your ears are mangled. You got so much scar tissue in your face, even because, when you're wrestling that hard, like, those guys, they're so strong, they're so good. Your face becomes like all like scar tissue. You see like all these wrestlers, they look like almost like mangled, and it's just like from the grinding of face over and over again. Like, the ribs have bumps all over them. Like, they take their shirt off and they're ripped, but they don't even look good because you have all these you broke your ribs so many times, you have bumps all over your wrists, you know. It's just like you give everything to it. Like you give everything to it, and sometimes it doesn't even give you anything back. But I'm happy that wrestling is over for me, because it made me in a way understand that the journey is its own reward. So like now I can have a lot of fun. I can have like, I don't know, I realize now that I had a lot of fun wrestling. And even though I didn't, you know, at the time I was thinking like, I'm gonna be in the Olympics one day, or I'm gonna be, you know, at the Worlds one day, and I'm gonna do good, and I'm gonna compete at all these like super huge tournaments. I'm gonna beat the best guys. I'm gonna compete with the best guys. I'm gonna be a champion. And you know, you tell yourself these things, but you don't really even mean it when you're a kid, because you don't understand what that takes. Then when you understand what that takes, then for a while, once I understood what that took, when I met Andy Bizik, and when I met David before that, and when I met all these people that were monsters, and where they still, you know, they fell short a lot of times. Like they didn't win, you know, the Olympics. They didn't win the world championships. You know, maybe they medaled. They medaled, but you know, it's still, there's a lot of heartbreak, a lot of pain, a lot of misery, but you know, to them, like the ones that were still happy through it, then that was like, oh, then you know, I got to decide if that journey is worth it. And right now I'm deciding that it's worth it, you know. And yeah, like the journey has to be its own reward. But it has to be with the singleness of purpose too. I think if you want to be successful, I think a lot of people, like, they use the journey and the grind as like an excuse to not have goals, to not reach their goals, at least, like, so that way when they fall short, they're like, oh well, I enjoyed the process. But right. I do think that like at the end of it, you know, there's nothing that people like that have to be ashamed of, you know. Like, because, you know, David really did give his body to it. His ribs were all broken from a million gut wrenches from the strongest gut wrenchers in the world, you know, in Dagestan and Georgia, where he comes from, you know, the hard, cold mountains where all they can do is train gut wrenches, you know what I mean? And they're so flexible and they're so strong from every position genetically already. And they also know how to train for wrestling. They learned the best wrestling techniques because that's the only thing they had over there. And, you know, he gave everything to the sport. And so did, Master Lloyd gave everything to jiu-jitsu. And my old coach, Jeff, who told me about Lloyd Irvin and was the reason why I went, like, he gave everything to fighting too, you know. Like, I see these guys and it's very inspiring to me because I'm not like all scarred up and beat up. I'm still kind of handsome. So, but like a guy like Hardfire and stuff like that, like it's cool now, but like later, you know, like when you're beat up and you can barely, you got like, one thing that I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but like this mindset stuff is super important to me.
No, this is good. This is good stuff. I'm letting you talk.
Yeah. Well, just, like when you're around people who really, even if they're not what people would consider great, like a legend, like a lot of people probably aren't going to know who David Vichinashvili is unless they're really into like, like some people I know, like they're like wrestling scholars almost. They know every wrestler. They know what school they went to. They know where they trained. They know all their coaches' lineage. Like they'll know who I am, you know? Like they'll know who I am. They'll know all my coaches from when I was a kid. Like there are people who are like that. They really know everything about wrestling. And they'll know who he is, but a lot of people won't probably. And he's, a world, a medalist and at the highest level multiple times. Like he's an absolute stud at wrestling. Like he's a PhD in wrestling. And, a lot of people probably aren't even going to know who he is. And there are guys who are like, I think that there's people like that, I think. And they gave everything to it. And it was a lot of heartbreak and it's a lot of pain. Like I watched this match with Rebaz Mendarashvili where he outscores him like 7, or no, it's like he outscores him like 8 or 9 to like 4 or 5. But because the old rule said you had to win the round,
Exactly.
So even if you destroyed him in one round, where you scored 7 points, it didn't matter. And so he lost the match. And at the end of the match, he's like just laying on the mat, like in defeat. And it's really sad to see something like that from somebody who you look up to, like from your coach. But it taught me a lot about what it means to be tough and what it means to love what you do. And
you keep giving. Guys like that keep giving. They keep giving back to the sport. They keep giving back to athletes.
But when you're at that level, you give back by just having done those matches. That's part of wrestling history now. Like that's an Olympic match. That's an Olympic match for a medal. That's a historical match, like that's always going to be there. in the archives, and there's always going to be stuff you can learn from that. Like I watched a lot. Like one thing he did it in freestyle, but I use it now for MMA is he like in the over-unders, he like goes to grab the leg. He gets the reaction where like they pull the leg back and he does the lat drop. It's very simple. And but just like the way he did it, like his dynamics and stuff, like the way his body moves, kind of similar. I like you can tell that I like if you saw him wrestle and saw how I wrestle, you would say we have sort of similar styles. Obviously, he had a much higher level than me because I never, I wasn't worth shit at freestyle. But yeah, like it's just like there's just, I mean, you still learn from that. You know what I mean? You still learn from good guys.
100%.
Actually, you know what's funny is one guy who I met out when I was in Colorado was Mark Madsen, who actually we wrestled together when we were at the same club under David at ASV Mines.
He was in Colorado?
Yeah, he was in Colorado training. He was like at a bunch of different gyms.
Oh, yeah. He did tell me that.
Yeah, he was at a bunch of different MMA gyms, and I saw him there. Yeah, he's a cool guy. Wow. But cool dude. Good wrestling, man.
Yeah. He was at the world level.
That dude knows a little bit about wrestling.
He was at the world level.
He was a world and Olympic silver medalist, man. You can't get better. Certainly. I mean, there's one guy better than that, and that was I mean, I don't want to say better, but I mean, there's one guy who came out on top, and that was Roman Vlasov. You know,
he's done.
Vlasov's done.
He didn't make the team.
What? I guess.
Yeah,
wow,
it's crazy. Kim didn't make it because he had COVID and couldn't do the qualifier, and Roman went to they sent Roman to, where did he go? Poland? They just sent it was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and he lost. I think he lost his first round. And that was basically, if he won that, they would have probably sent him, but he lost. Yeah. And now there's these two other dudes that Roman actually beat the other two dudes. But since he lost in Poland, it was like, we can't trust you, you know. At this point.
But that doesn't necessarily, you got to see, because other countries don't do it in America where they wrestle 1,000 times off for it. They sometimes do like the tournament. They see how they do in the tournament. Exactly. They'll have like a tournament in the country. Like there's a lot of different ways that they pick, you know, who goes. And there's a lot of other stuff that happens too. Like, you know, there's a reason why backups exist. You know, people get sick. People maybe aren't ready for the competition at the highest level. We'll see, man. I don't know. That's crazy. I haven't followed international wrestling for a minute. So it's a lot of names now that I don't recognize. But then it's like, you know what the craziest thing is, which I think is badass though too. And in a way, I'm sad that I'm not a part of it more, but I'm also happy because it's cool. It means, you know, like I was in the mix. A lot of names of guys who I competed against now are like they're like, you know, competing at worlds, winning medals, like making Olympic teams. It's crazy, bro. Like my generation of Greco dudes was actually pretty raw. There was a lot of good people. Like there's one dude like Timo Chukalidze from Georgia who I wrestled all the time in camp. We had like a whole camp where he was my main partner pretty much. And he was bigger than me. He's a beast. Wow. Strong dude. Taught me how to handle strong people. And he's world champ now or European champ or something. I saw him win a bunch of medals. This one guy, like we did a lot of wrestling camps with Georgia. So I saw the same people from like different places a lot. There's a lot of just hammers that I remember from the wrestling rooms growing up, like traveling to their countries to wrestle with them. You know, wrestling is cool because when you're on the international scene, you travel a lot, you're with a lot of different guys, like you meet all these different styles, all these different coaches, these beast coaches from like the Soviet Union days who like they were training like with Carolyn in the room, and then they're in the room with me now, you know, like it was cool. Like it was really cool, like getting to travel and be a part of, you know, the bigger culture of wrestling and, you know, meeting people from all over, of all toughness, all different cultures, all different styles. And yeah, like a lot of those dudes, though, they're on the world stage now, like hitting highlight reel finishes on dudes, like whirling dudes, launching dudes. Like, you know, I feel like my generation of Greco guys is super athletic, like, cause we're like really combining like the sports science aspect of, you know, like performance with the just old school training. And we're also tough. You know, we grew up, people don't understand, like people are like, oh, kids nowadays are soft, some of them. But I think that there's also like, the late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s even, there was a lot of stuff going on. You know, it was kind of a wild time to grow up. And I think a lot of the people who excel in sports, who come from that time, like we're all kind of crazy. Like I've noticed, like we're all a little bit nuts. Like a lot of wrestlers my age, they're kind of nuts, you know? Like they do crazy shit like outside of the wrestling room. That's what Porter is so special, because Jesse like was a very you know, for him, if it doesn't benefit his wrestling, I don't think he's gonna waste his time doing it or even thinking about it. You know what I mean? He's that type of dude. Like
he is so narrow-minded. He is.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it narrow-minded. I'll call it like focused. He's not narrow-minded. I think Jesse's very open-minded in some ways. Like he's willing to listen to anyone.
Not narrow, man. Narrow focus. Very focused.
Yeah, focus. Like
he's very open-minded. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a smart, free-thinking type of dude. But I think he just has like you know, like watching your like talk with him, he just very, you know, like I said, if it doesn't help him with wrestling, he lives, exactly. He lives, breathes, you know, sleeps, eats, drinks, shits and pisses wrestling. You know what I mean? He doesn't. This dude, if it doesn't help him with wrestling, he's not gonna do it, and that's awesome. You know, that's how it has to be for wrestling. You know, wrestling is not like other sports, like. Because I see people, they give everything to it. They give their life, they give their body, they give everything, and they still don't win the Olympics. They still don't. Look at Roman Vlasov, man. Look how strong that dude is. Look how good that dude is. Look how on top he was forever. And there's all these hungry dudes ready to just dethrone him. They want him. They're hungry for it. They'll kill for it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But there was a time in my life where I remember talking to some of my friends, and it was like, man, right now, if you had to eat a baby and you could become a European champion or a world champion, would you do it? Would you do the most horrible, unspeakable things in the world? Like me and my friends would ask each other that. And I would be like, yeah, like, because we believed that at the time, you know, and I'm sad that I lost that for a little bit. I think that if I would have kept that all the way through my whole life, who knows where I could be. But I'm not going to complain and like cry over spilled milk. I'm not the type of person like Jesse, who was born, or maybe Jesse wasn't born like that, but whatever he did, he's at the point now where he can focus on something and do something and not be distracted by things outside.
Right.
Not worry about things outside, because he knows that that's what he's meant to do. He's meant to wrestle. Like he feels that singleness of purpose, and that's great. When you have that, that's great. And when I had that when I was like 17, 18 years old, it was nice, because I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll do that. You know, I felt like the universe lined up when I was wrestling. I felt like that was all I was supposed to do. And when I stopped feeling like that, it was a sad time for me. I felt lost for a long time. That's maybe why like I got depressed, because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. But MMA is cool. It's giving me that purpose again. It's not the same as wrestling. Like I can't lie and say that it is, because it's not like the same type of sport where there's like this amateur culture and you're chasing some type of like thing, like you're chasing like, you're not like, because in MMA, you know, you get like money for it and stuff like that. Like it's not a lot of money, like they was talking about fighter pay and stuff, but there's at least like a culture for it. Like, but with wrestling, the only people who are gonna really know is like other wrestlers, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like you could be a world champion and people just walk into like, ew, like what's wrong with your ears? Or they think you're a jiu-jitsu guy. You know what I mean?
Who you are.
Yeah, they have no idea who you are unless they're like a real wrestling fan. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny.
Well, what do you got coming up now? We're approaching an hour here, and it's like 1:30. What do you and you gotta train, you gotta sleep, you gotta train again coming tomorrow. What do you got coming up? Any fights? I know you said you wanted to get yourself in the right spot so you feel good.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess maybe like a jiu-jitsu competition. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what my coaches have planned for me. You know, it could be something soon, could be something in a long time. But either way, I'm just gonna for now, I'm just gonna trust the process and not rush it. I feel good. I don't want to I feel good training now. Like I feel like I'm having fun training. So I'm not trying to ruin that by overthinking like what I'm training for. Just focusing on getting better right now. And you know, if opportunities come and my coaches and my trainers and everybody thinks that it's the right opportunity, like then everyone will know. But you know, it's funny because you know, Neslo was just talking about it. He's like, when you win like an amateur fight, you beat a tomato can, and everybody everyone on your Instagram starts tagging Dana White and commenting, dude, you belong in the UFC, bro. Like they watch your highlight reel from an amateur fight and they're all talking like that. And it's just like, they don't know what really goes into the training, what goes into the winning, what goes into the fighting, what goes into anything like that. You know, you can't, it's just like, you know, you're not doing it for them, even if you are to a level, because they don't really understand what's going on. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like people all the time asking me, oh, when's your next fight? When's this, when that? I don't even like, it's not that I like hearing it from you because you're an athlete, you understand things about sports and stuff like that. But from other people, like, I'm just like, man, what do you know about training for a fight? Like, come on now, like, don't like I'm a fight when I'm ready. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm a fight when the fight comes. Like, but
Right.
it's been COVID, everything's been closed down. Like, it's been a lot. You know, there's a lot to think about. I was very unhealthy for a long period of time, like with my ulcerative colitis. Overcoming that mentally was so hard because you know, if I'm a strong guy, like I'm a strong dude, like I'm known for being a strong Greco-Roman wrestler. Like I have powerful body lock, like powerful throws, you know, like I'm explosive hips. So it's like when you're not that guy anymore, then it's like, damn, I almost had like an identity crisis in a way. It's like, what am I, man? And I guess what I realized from that is I'm a guy who doesn't mind taking beatings. I don't mind being the nail sometimes too. Hopefully I don't have to be the nail, you know, in every situation, but it's like, if you're not the nail in your training room, then you're not good anyway. So it was good because, you're not in a good place anyways. So it was good because it made me mentally tougher going through that and, you know, nursing myself back to health basically. Yeah, it was just another chapter in the long story. I'm always thinking, I'm like, man, when I get famous, I hope I get famous soon. It's gonna be a dope story. It's gonna be they're gonna make a cool biopic. I don't know who they're gonna have play me. They're probably gonna have like Daniel Day Kim play you, you know? He's about your age, right?
Probably, yeah, man.
Daniel Day Kim will play you. Who will play me? Maybe Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He kind of looks like me.
There you go.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, maybe.
You'll have to train him a bit. Get him
some
cauliflower ears.
You'll have to get into it. He's not really like, I don't know if he's like a method actor like that, so maybe he wouldn't be good because you really have to get into the character to play me. Play you too. Whoever got to play you, they have to be a psychopath. They got to go to bed at whatever time you go to bed at, like 2 a.m. and wake up at 4 a.m. Like whatever psychopath. How do you get by on no sleep like that?
I don't know.
You don't need it, do you?
Because as soon as we're done, I'll lay down, I'll fall right asleep, and then as soon as like 4:30 rolls around, I'm up. It's like
But you know, I was reading.
That's old people. When people get older like me, that's what happens. You wake up early. When I was little, and my dad was up early. I'm like, why are you always up so early? He's like,
I just wake up. Yeah,
I'm just up.
Yeah, I don't know though, like, because for me, I need sleep, man. Part of the thing
you're training 8 hours a day.
Training, but it's not even the training that throws it off so much. It's like the work and like just being forced to do things like monotonous tasks to make money, because you know that's how society is. It tells us we need to work away our lives. So I'll just be in you know, I balance. So like when I'm balancing on the weekends, like sometimes I'm even having fun because I'm in a club. But it's like it throws my sleep schedule so off. Like I'm up until like 2. I mean, I'm up. No, not 2. 2 is when we have to kick everyone out. So I'm there until like 2:30, and then I get home like 3. And then by the time I eat and shower and do everything, it's probably like 4. And I'm in bed like 4, and I'm asleep maybe 4:30 on a good night. You know, that's not on the weekends. Like if you're doing that, even if you're only doing that on the weekends, like you can't recover a regular sleep schedule in 5 days. You know what I mean?
No, you can. Yeah.
So yeah, it's that's rough on me, but
yeah, you definitely gotta get in your sleep schedule. If you're training that much, man, yeah, you definitely do.
Yeah, what about you? You stay in shape too, though. You train a lot too.
Well, COVID got me training. You know, I wasn't really training before because I was just coaching, and I'd jump in with you guys, you know, train with you. But I never considered that like training. I was just being a partner, you know.
Yeah, but when you're moving around like wrestling with the young guns like me, you know, strong as hell type dudes like me, super slick, super powerful dudes like Josh Lopez, like that is a workout. You know what I mean?
That's a freaking workout.
Yeah.
And it wasn't this, you know, it's so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a workout, but I always felt like I was always the guy, like you were saying, I was sort of that nail. I was sort of that get being smashed and not letting you guys, but being a good enough partner to get the right look. You know, I always feel like that's what you got to give athletes too, giving them the right look. So when they get to competition too, you know, they got it. So, but now, you know, COVID just caused me to just start lifting again.
And You
So
remember Sam Kilmer?
yeah.
So we were watching some of your videos like in the beginning of COVID. We're like, dude, Jay is just a psycho. Like he's just training alone in his bed. Because we were still not motivated because there was nothing open at the time, and we're like very extrovert people, and so we were just kind of hanging out together, like playing video games. Not he didn't really play, and because there was no gym open, nothing. Like it was just nothing, and he was like, dude, like Jay's a nut, like how does he do all that like in his basement? I'm like, I don't know, man. He's a psychopath waking up at 4:30. But yeah, I mean, it's a big inspiration though, seeing you do that at your age, man. Like,
you gotta come over. You gotta come over, man. Train.
Get a workout in. It's been too long since, I've just ragdolled someone like a throwing dummy, you know what I mean? So it'd be good to see you again. I'm kidding. Yeah, man,
I got one on you before. Got a couple.
You got a couple, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I you know what I've noticed on me though? I've always been inconsistent, man. Inconsistent in my like I'm a defensive wrestler with inconsistent defense.
Yeah, I'm like, how am I throwing you right now?
Yeah, but then I would always, but then when I would throw, it would be like something like spectacular, dramatic. You know what I mean? It would be badass.
Exactly.
Like, oh. Yeah, I got a nice arch. But yeah, man, I definitely want to get out and do some wrestling because I like the way, like I like what I've been watching your breakdowns, and I'm like, damn, a lot of stuff is really cool stuff that I want to try, like using MMA and jiu-jitsu and stuff because it looks like it all work and it's really cool. Style. It's like that European style that I like very fluid, dynamic.
Exactly. Yeah, well, let's set something up. We'll get you.
We'll definitely set something up.
All right, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man. You better go to bed. You better call it a night.
All right, man. Thanks again. We'll catch you later.
Thank you so much, man. Be easy.
All right. We'll see you.